I'm sorry.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to 5 on Friday, the weekly show where everything's made up and the points don't matter. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to start with intros. Amy, Reid, Benjamin, James, and then myself. So Amy, kick it off.
All right. Well, I'm Amy Quick, joining you guys from Fortinet. I'm a territory account manager here representing Alabama and Mississippi. I've worn a lot of different hats in the sales world, 15 years in. Run the full gamut of everything from SDR inside sales to the enterprise level. But I just really love everything to do with business and kind of learning and growing through this process as well. So I'm excited to be here and hear what James has to put forward today. All right, Reid.
Yeah, I'm Reid Anderson. I'm an account executive over at PandaDoc. I actually work with Patrick, and I've been there for about coming up on 4 years. In the SaaS world, long-time listener, first-time participator in this thing. So really excited to get going.
Benjamin?
Yeah, I'm Benjamin. I'm the UK's most hated sales trainer. To nick at Americanisms, give me you're poor, you're tired, you're frustrated, you're angry, you're repeatedly depressed and suicidal salesmen, and I may be able to help them. Some will jump, though. So that's what I do.
Thank you, Benjamin. James, are you potentially suicidal? Do you want to introduce yourself that way?
I am absolutely not suicidal. I left Seattle after 6 years, just about 2 years ago. And so the seasonal affective disorder is no longer an issue for me. I am an SDR in the SaaS space. I've been doing that for about 19 months. The bulk of my adult career has been spent in the restaurant, catering, and bar businesses, though I do have some previous sales and sales leadership experience working for an ADT security dealer, which is something I believe Amy has some recent experience coming across someone with, so maybe we can touch on that. It's kind of a funny sort of generally a door-to-door character building kind of sales.
Awesome. Thank you, James. So we can get right into it, man. If you want to start with your discovery call, we're going to have Mr. Benjamin here as your prospect. Feel free to take it away.
All right. Benjamin, quick overview, just an idea of what Ringlead is. Ringlead's been around since 2003, was Salesforce's original ISV partner, helped them launch the App Exchange. And what Ringlead does is automate time-consuming data hygiene operations for users of Salesforce, as well as the marketing automation platforms, Marketo, Eloqua, and Pardot.
No, don't understand what any of that means.
I don't understand what any of it means.
I honestly, I don't even know what data hygiene is. Well, this is marketing speech at its finest. What does data hygiene mean?
We're going to get into some jargon here. If it goes right over your head, just nod and smile.
It will. This cap's going to be covered in mud by the end of this.
Planning to blow it right off the top of your head, really. That's what I'm
All right,
hoping.
let's go. Let's do this, Ed.
Data hygiene, cleaning up data, making sure. Let's talk about dirty data. All right. Did it just get a bit more interesting? Everybody just, hey, something's dirty, something needs to be cleaned. This is always going to interest folks. We're a cloud-based platform. You should know that, which is kind of huge in a work from home world that we're all operating in now. So there's flexibility there. So you can do this sort of stuff from home. But like I said, let's talk about dirty data. Unstandardized data sets, right, can cause a lot of problems with segmenting, accurate reporting, identifying redundancies. Who do you sell to, Benjamin? What does your ICP look like? What are the personas?
So I typically sell to CEOs or managing directors. They run successful and ambitious companies. They would have been trading for at least 3 years, a minimum of, say, £1 million turnover a year. They would have at least, ideally, 3 to 4 salesmen. And they will be assuming that they're doing okay, but when they dig beneath the surface, they realize they've got a bunch of order takers. And they could be anywhere in the world.
Order takers.
Order takers. Well, salesmen as they'd refer to themselves, but order takers if we were being honest.
Looking for inbound leads and hand raisers.
Oh, good God. No. Hoping for inbound leads and looking to avoid prospecting.
Praying. Okay. Under unstandardized data titles, like I said, can offer a host of problems. How often do you see in your CRM, or if you work in your marketing platform, do you see a variation in those persona titles? For example, one record says CEO, the other one says Chief Executive, and the other one says Chief Executive Officer.
Oh, I see what you're getting at. I can't speak for me personally because I use an Excel spreadsheet. So I can, I just literally keep it as simple. I just want a name and a title and a number. But I know for clients, because all my clients use fancy CRM, they think it makes people better salesmen. So, yes, that is very common. I've seen that, yeah.
Well, you may or may not agree with this statement, but I personally believe that the data in your CRM and your MAP is going to be the foundation of any sales and marketing campaign. The more information that you can have, the better. Would you agree?
Without doubt, yeah.
Absolutely. So normalizing these naming conventions, along with things like phone number formats, states and regions, is going to allow for more accurate reporting, better forecasting, as well as just make it easier to identify duplicate records.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Please.
How does getting the job title correct from chief executive to CEO make reporting better?
Well, in terms of segmenting at first, not necessarily directly with the titles, but segmenting specifically with the titles is a big one. If your marketing team is trying to reach out to all the CEOs in your database and titles are all varying, they're going to have a hard time bucketing those records to reach out, and it's going to affect the operations of that marketing campaign.
Okay.
So to put it plainly, James, when you're running a report and you're trying to take all of these titles and coagulate that information down into a call list that you could export into an Excel document, like that's going to clean up that process on the top end to make your Excel document much more efficient. Like it's like CEO, everything's going to be more organized in buckets, right?
Absolutely. Couldn't have put it better myself. In fact, I didn't. Thank you, Amy.
What I'm here for, guys.
You're in sales, Amy.
As I mentioned, also it helps in identifying duplicates when naming conventions, capitalizations, and all those good things are all on an even keel throughout the data set. It helps to identify duplicate records, which is a problem that every company that is, out of the kiddie pool of the digital transformation, and using CRM and MAP databases is going to be dealing with. Duplicates happen. They can come from a number of different sources. The average company has 4 to 5 different sources creating records in their databases, things like manual entry, web forms, list imports, and API connected systems. When duplicates are not managed well, they're going to be causing lost MQLs, they're going to be causing damage to the company's reputation and lost revenue opportunities. Can you tell me about an experience you may have come across, Benjamin, where you've had 2 reps reach out to the same person because of a duplicate record?
Personally, no, because I'm a one-man band, but the companies I work for that can, in previous experiences and previous roles, that has been problematic. You phone someone and then literally maybe a day later, someone phones the same person. I've already spoken with you guys. Yes. I just assumed it was stupidity on behalf of salesmen, but it could be more technical.
Well, you want eggs on your plate and not your face, of course, and that's going to, damage the reputation, especially if you're coming from a company that touts itself as a data quality powerhouse. If you're doing that same thing. As well, lost revenue opportunities. Nobody wants to miss out on opportunities to, reach out to qualified leads. For example, you've got someone who's engaging with marketing content, filling out forms on your website, and they're not reaching your marketing qualified lead threshold because those various engagements are spread out across several duplicate leads. Can you see how this could be a major problem?
Yes, I can.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks. I appreciate you. I thought you might just shoot me on that one in there.
Oh, I could have, but I've got to let you get through this. It'd be
You
cool.
gotta let me get through it a little bit. I can't do it
Exactly. Yeah.
What it breaks down to really is SDRs, people that are reaching out, your salespeople, they're looking to hit metrics, right?
Yeah.
They got to get those calls in. They're not looking for duplicates. They're not looking to enhance data in that record unless they need to.
Oh,
and if they are doing things besides reaching out to prospects.
Say that again. You froze on us. I don't know if it was just me.
Yeah. No, he froze on us.
SCRs, if they're generally looking to hit their KPIs and not looking for duplicate records, they're not looking to enhance the information within the record. And even if they are, they're doing things besides reaching out to prospects. I think you can see how that can be a conflict of interest and decrease productivity. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to another level of the Ringlead platform and talk about enrichment. Okay, data decay has been a growing problem over the last 10 years. You know, data providers used to be very reliable, and that has been slowly ticking lower. In a post-COVID world, gasoline has been thrown on fire as millions of people have lost jobs or changed jobs. And so having enrichment be on point is absolutely critical to making those connections and being able to actually get in touch with your buyer and your buyer persona. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the better the data, the more cleaner it is, then yes, that would make sense. And considering the turmoil, yeah.
Thank you. So with enrichment needing to be on point, I wanted to ask you, how many vendors do your customers that you usually work with, how many data vendors are they usually working with? One, two, several?
I honestly couldn't answer that question.
Okay.
Probably a couple going to bed, at least two. It's some of the larger ones.
What about in your experience? Let me just transfer this one to Amy. In your experience specifically, how many data vendors is Fortinet working with that you're aware
of? Well, there's just ZoomInfo by DiscoverOrg for sure. And then there's just Salesforce in general. I mean, that's our CRM. So all of the old data that's in there. I'm not sure what mark they use on the marketing side for, like, the top of the funnel leads and the marketing drip campaigns. I'm assuming they probably use a Pardot or Marketo or something like that for that, but I'm not sure. I just know on the sales side it's DiscoverOrg. So I would say probably a couple, like if you spread them across marketing and sales, they're probably using two different, or maybe they're using the same but supplementing with another lead gen database.
Makes sense. There's a number of different types of data out there. You mentioned ZoomInfo, DiscoverOrg. You've got contact information data, absolutely crucial. Got to be able to get in touch with the people. There's a lot of different kinds of data out there as well. Verification providers, especially when these people are changing jobs so rapidly and that's accelerating, you want to know that that record is current, and you want to know if that person, especially if they're a former buyer of yours, has moved on to another company. That can be a huge opportunity. But there's other things such as firmographic and technographic data, which can offer your people, both on the sales and marketing side, a better picture of who that buyer is in that company and how likely they are to buy from you, as those attributes tilt them towards being on the side of your ICP, as well as things like intent data at the top of the funnel. As Amy mentioned, that can be absolutely huge. If someone's looking at you, you want to know it. Am I right?
Yeah, we use it. It's hugely beneficial to zero in on where you're calling. So if they're already looking at your product or solution or that industry vertical, or those keywords, you can call them. The key is you can't call them and be like, hey, I know you're looking at this. You have to kind of work your way around. It does point you in the right direction. So yeah,
people absolutely call that intent data creepy. They never seem to respond. That's just made my personal experience. So using that, you're absolutely right, Amy. Using that information deftly is huge. Where Ringlead fits into this and helping with this is we've created a resource called the Data Exchange with at present around 30 vendors on there. So someone who is looking for enrichment can take a macro view of the enrichment space while also searching for specific data attributes that they need to suit their unique business purposes. Does that make sense?
Kind of. I think that was a little muddy.
Okay.
I think it was a little too like high level for a discovery call. Like sure. I would have been like, if I was an executive, I would have been like, get to the point. What does Ringlead do?
Okay. Well, what Ringlead does was right where I was going into it. We allow, with our enriched product, to actually allow a data operations professional to apply multiple enrichment vendors to their data set, even down to a field by field basis. So they can prioritize data from this source and this source, multiple sources on a field level to create their quote unquote perfect record, the one that's going to suit their business needs. So this allows.
Can I ask a question there? When you were explaining that, James, the first thing that came to mind was one of those like water filtration systems.
Mm.
Like just filtering out all of the bad juju from the data, and then it extrapolates it into basically lead lists that are clean and ready to call on and ready to act on. I don't know. Like, I don't know, guys. Like that's a right there. That's a use case that kind of popped in my mind as a good analogy and visual. Would you agree with that, James?
I think so.
Probably.
I'm writing it down right now. Water filtration.
I know, like, I just try to like apply it to something that I understand, and that's from you got all this data, you know, and it's dirty and it's full of duplicates and everything else, and then you use all of these multiple different vendor products or solutions to filter it down and clean it and extrapolate it into nice, clean, tidy call lists or mail merge lists or whatever, so these leads are ready to go, ready to rock and roll.
You are on point there, and I actually forgive me, gang. I actually skipped over a segment that I was going to sort of sew up the duplicates and the normalization with. Essentially, Ringlead does have two products for managing duplicates: Cleanse, which normalizes the data, cleans up the duplicates in the existing data set, and is actually able to link leads to accounts, which I think you could see the value of that when you're approaching your sales and marketing efforts from an account-based model. Does that make sense? The second duplicate management feature we have is Prevent, which is perimeter protection from new duplicates and processing of new records that are being created in your databases. So we basically put a ring of protection, the ring in Ringlead, around your databases and process all the new records that come in to prevent new duplicates, and then update existing records that would indicate the new engagement, maybe with your marketing content or a hand-raising sort of situation. Following?
So it's proactively filtering leads before they even get into your CRM.
100%. Okay. Thank you for helping me backtrack there, Amy. I realized that I skipped over that part, and I said, how am I going to circle back to this? And you gave me the opportunity. Thank you. And so now if you take the roadmap that we've already placed out in front of us, we've cleaned up the existing data. We've set up perimeter protection to process the new data and prevent new dirty data from being formed. And now we're using the enrichment from the resource that Ringlead's created to be able to shop for enrichment vendors and apply them into your data set to enhance your data. Now what you've got is a really good view of your customers through the database. Are we all with me here? We're on the roadmap, because I'm about to bring it home. Routing.
Bring it home.
Routing's the key, because I'm going on too long. We need to get going. In a lot of cases, I'm sorry, this is me. It's definitely spam.
Is it a live call?
Definitely.
You like doing those live calls.
100%.
Take the cold call, man. I want to hear it.
Sell me a car warranty. Okay. In a lot of cases, data operations pros that we work with have been saying that they see hot leads growing cold because they weren't followed up with properly. And you've probably all seen a study or two or some piece of nugget of information where we've heard that a lead, that the longer it takes for someone to reach out to a new lead, the less likely it is that they're going to make contact with that individual. Has everyone heard something like that?
Oh, yeah.
We've
Yes.
all
Time
seen-
kills deals.
Yeah.
We've all seen an example of a lead that's grown cold on the vine, a missed lead, a missed opportunity in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what the routing tool does essentially is allows a sales operations or a marketing operations pro, the person managing the data, to easily build the assignment workflows to make sure that that lead lands in minutes in front of the right rep. It can be categorized by things like regions, verticals, tiers of companies, and it features things like weighted round robins so that, for example, say Patrick is in ramp up and Amy is a top performer, we can put more leads in front of Amy while not overwhelming Patrick. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, a little bit. Don't give more than he can bite off. And so essentially what you get then with Ring Lead is cleaning of the existing data, processing of the new records, enhancement of the data, and then landing it in front of a sales rep. And all of this happens automated on the back end or in real time within minutes. Questions?
Say that again. Wait a second.
Terrible.
Was that like the most awkward transition ever? I just was not like honed in. Say that one more time.
Okay. Essentially what you get with Ring Lead is a cleansing of the existing database, right? A perimeter protection that processes your new leads, whether that be from list imports from a trade show or web forms. And then in real time, we can enhance that data with enrichment that you've set up by your own hierarchies to make it the perfect record and land it in front of the right sales rep in mere minutes.
Okay. That makes sense. The map makes sense.
Created the road. So please go ahead. You had a question?
What's next?
What's next was I was going to ask if you had any questions about anything that I've covered. This discovery call isn't going particularly well, in my opinion, but this is how we get better, isn't it?
So is this what you would say on a phone call to a prospect or similar?
This is a bit of a different, I mean, maybe not in the format, but segments of that are things that I would say, yes. I think the format may be throwing me off a tad.
Okay.
Yeah, that's normal on here.
Yeah.
But what would be your next escalation? You know, what's the end goal at the end of the discovery? To get them on like a demo, or
Correct.
what comes next?
I'm an
Okay.
SDR, and I'm at the next point, then I'm asking, you know, when we can set up a meeting for them to visualize the tools.
So if I was a prospect, I would probably ask you something like, well, how does this make my life any easier though? How's this going to make my, I get it, data. If data's better, life is better. I get it. And there's no panacea. So how's this going to take away, how's this going to make my guys pick up the phone? How's this going to make my guys sell more? How's this going to take away all the headaches I get of it's the data I can't phone? How's that going to do that for me? That's what I'd want to, because that's what I'd buy for. I don't care how you do it. You'd have mouses and boxes scratching away at stuff. Those are the questions I'd want to know. So how's it going to do? How's it going to make my sales guys make me more money? That's the only reason I'd buy this.
Can I go now?
Go.
Okay, because I didn't know if you were going to ask me how one more time. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, it's all right. It was pause suspense just to.
I'm waiting for my opening. Aren't we all? How is this going to do this for you, Benjamin? How is this going to help your people sell more?
Yeah.
Again, the time it takes from that point where that person raises their hand on that web form till that lead lands in front of your salesperson is absolutely critical. The average company, it can take hours. This is going to land your leads in front of your salespeople and the right salesperson within mere minutes with enhanced data in front of them. So they can take a look and see, yes, this is my account. I've got some intent data here where they were looking at one of my competitors. This person's shopping multiple others. It gives them that full picture of who that person is, and it hits them instantly, literally within minutes.
Right.
That is how.
Okay. And so it's down then to my guy to pick up the phone.
It is. It's I can't train your salespeople.
No, I know. I wish you could. Monkeys would be easier, but there you go.
So James, from a discovery call perspective, you were like one of the most like knowledgeable SDRs I've ever seen, right? And I think SDR, when I think of that, I think, okay, your outcome is a meeting, a booked meeting or a booked demo. And so you have a ton of information. Do you feel like you have to get through all of that to explain what Ringlead does before people are willing to take a call with you or to book that next step?
Not necessarily. I think typically what it is I'm searching for one pain. Oftentimes I'm honing in on one and trying to set the meeting from that one, and then also letting them know we can do this and this and this as well for you. But I can see where you might be going with that might be too much information.
Yes, I would agree. I think it's too much information. It's very technical. It's a lot of in-world jargon. Now, your prospect may know it or may not know it. The assumption is they're idiots and they don't know anything. So I would really simplify the language. It sounds like a group of psychologists talking to each other. It's very complicated language. It's lawyers never say, "Did you see the car?" It's, "Where was the automobile? Where was the vehicle?" It's like, no, just say car. Yeah. So I would simplify the language. I'd also ask more questions. You do all the talking. I would get me to start telling you what's pissing me off about my sales guys and the headaches I get every day with people bitching about they don't have good leads, they're phoning the wrong people, people are pissing on their accounts because they're calling them. I would start getting them to tell you that is happening to them and then say, well, let's pretend we could fix that. Would you invest in that? Rather than telling me at this stage how you can do that for me. I would rather get them saying, no, I have all those problems. This is what it looks like. This is how it manifests itself. Can you fix it? And you would say, yes. And if you saw our solution and you believed it did all that, what would you do? Well, I'd buy it.
Yeah, man. James.
I think I might have landed somewhere between a discovery and a presentation, which isn't necessarily a good place.
I was going to say, I felt like you were giving me a presentation without a deck.
Right.
Where even is the deck? I feel like I'm almost getting a demo or something else. Is that common, or was that just the format? Is that how you would usually run it?
No, that's not generally how I usually run it. I don't get the opportunity to get people on a video call as often as I do to speak with them on, over the phone. And so sort of caught myself in a purgatory area between the two.
So what is your, carry on, sorry.
No worries, man. The one thing I heard that I almost screamed at you when I heard it, you said hot leads, not hot loads, that's disgusting, are growing cold because they weren't followed up with properly. And the other one might be even more eye-catching, but that was it right there, right? I was like, that's the problem. And if you don't even want to just focus on that one, because I know your product does a lot of stuff, you could have a bucket situation. It's like, hey, John, just to get right to the point, like typically our clients are either in this bucket or this bucket, one of them being that hot lead question. Like I can assume you might be in one, but like you can tell me to go buzz off. Like, am I off base? And get them to tell you, because they probably have that issue. Almost every company has an issue with speed to lead if you're selling to like the SaaS space. And then get right into that. How are you doing it right now? What is your process to get those leads to your salespeople? Because I have no idea what the prospect was doing with their current process at all by the end of that call. Like, all I know is more about your company.
Fair.
I agree.
What brought up before, which I love, is like the threat following the thread of pain, right? Like once you get them talking, the more they're opening up and saying, I have this problem, this problem, this problem. You just keep expanding on that until you don't have to sell anything at that point. It's just, like Benjamin said, we have a solution that can fix that. Let them talk themselves into it, because you can get them there, because you're very product knowledge savvy on everything Ringlead does. So you can kind of manipulate that conversation through your question trail. Like, I don't know, Patrick, like give them an example of like a pain trail that you would follow. Like, oh man, I like my spreadsheets are solid. Like,
Yeah, like go back to fundamentals, like a basic spin cell, just like how are you doing this right now? What happens when that happens? What's the impact of that on the business? Then what happens if you don't change it? Like start there and then you can get a little more in depth.
Again, going back to basics, people bar emotionally, justify intellectually. That is a very intellectual presentation. And whilst I may intellectually sit there and think that all sounds great, if in here I think, yeah, but I don't think we really need it, or I don't really think we have those issues, or yes, leads could be a bit faster, but we've invested heavily in a system and we're pretty happy with it. It could be better, but so you're also going to be talking to people that think they've already fixed this problem. That's the other thing. You're coming in because most companies will already assume we do that pretty well. So you have to get them to acknowledge that it is a problem before you go into the intellectual stuff, because it doesn't matter how intellectually brilliant your solution is. If I don't feel or believe I need it, I'm not going to take it. Even if I do need it, I've got to get there myself. So yeah, I'd less intellectualize it personally.
Yeah. I agree with everybody. I think overall, just keeping it more problem focused, not product. And I understand the logic. You just want to throw in a bunch of features and then hopefully they'll latch onto one and say, oh, tell me more about that. But I think like Patrick and Benjamin, we actually use your cold call script quite a bit. So just saying, hey, usually people I reach out to and with your title fall into 2 or 3 categories. And then you list those problems. And the ones that Patrick brought up, the speed to lead, right? Time kills deals. Just communicated it in a way that they'll understand and that'll resonate. The other one that I really liked was, the filter analogy that Amy had. So like a Brita filter, and then also people calling the same lead and what happens there. I think that they'll just resonate with them more because they're not trying to grasp what you do from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, turn it all into stories that they can relate to. You know, analogies are great. They're very emotionally driven. And also like giving them something like a concept to wrap their head around, like, oh yeah, that's happened to me. You know, I know for a fact that duplicate leads is a problem everywhere, right?
Absolutely.
Because even in Excel spreadsheets, you still have to dedupe spreadsheets, especially if you're going to do a mail merge, because then you're going to be sending out to 3 Tom Smiths, you know? And then with calling, you know, the way you could use that is, okay, well, how much time does it take your SDRs typically to manually filter through those Excel documents once you've exported that information out of your CRM? On average, how long would it take your SDR to filter through that so that they're not calling on multiple people in a single day, or they're not sending duplicate emails? Put the ball in their court and let them talk their way out of that hole, because chances are, I mean, I know I've spent hours deduplicating and manually manipulating spreadsheets, you know, and that's time I could have been spent calling.
I ask a question like, so when you're walking through the sales floor and it's quiet and you turn to one of your guys and you say, hey, why aren't you on the damn phone? And he says, it's because the data's duplicated and I've got to clean it up. Yeah, but you said that yesterday. You said that last week. That's what pisses them off. If I could take that away so that next time you walk through and he says, why are you not making any, he has to say, it's because I'm lazy, then that would fix a problem, because you now fire the guy. So focus on that.
Right, and Benjamin, to that point too, like as a manager, well, shit rolls downhill, okay? So if your guys aren't doing their jobs because of an issue with data, and they have to spend all this time manipulating it, well, as a manager, that's on you. And then you look like an idiot because you haven't solved that problem so that your SDRs and your team can work more efficiently. So when you approach it from okay, well, this is a job threat, you don't fix this problem, are you going to have a job in 6 months? Because they're going to continue to perform poorly because they're wasting all this time not actively selling. How does that impact that manager? You know, and then you could and you don't even have to tell them that, just let them figure it out on their own. You know, it's just the nature of psychologically manipulating them into kind of understanding how deep the problem really is. You know, I don't know. That's what I see. And honestly, James, why aren't you an account executive? You know what I mean? Like where are you at in your in your career? Because you're like, for an SDR, like, I think I think you could nail this pretty easily because you've just got so much knowledge behind the product.
And that's a good thing. All that knowledge you have, rather than telling it to people, turn it all into questions. If you turn everything you want to tell people into questions that get them to realize the answer, you'll nail it, because that's what you need to do.
I had questions with the information that I planned on covering, and I got away from them. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Because I felt the pressure of time, and I was like, I got to cover all this. Didn't need to cover any of it. Only needed to find one thing that mattered to you.
That's the beauty of a scenario like this, because that pressure you're feeling is what it's like in the real world.
True.
So it's very easy to get knocked off. You shouldn't have got knocked off course here, but you did. So how often this happens in the real world, I don't know, but this is a window into that probably more than you realize. So you've really got to hammer in on the questions, get the prospect to do all the talking. Everything you wanted to tell me then you could have turned into a question. I don't suppose, let's pretend when you last did. And he goes, I don't know, we don't do that. We've never done that. I've never thought of that. The moment you ask him questions he can't answer, you're the smartest guy without actually having to say you're the smartest guy.
I love it.
Right. What do you want to say about time constraints?
One of my other comments was about structure, where like we went into this and it just felt like we were kind of flailing around and falling off a cliff. There was no direction. Like, I feel like you would feel a lot better if you knew exactly what was going to happen and you said it out loud. It's like, hey, like the end goal of this is to see if it's a good idea to see X, Y, and Z or whatever your next step is. And then weigh out what the success criteria is and then do an upfront contract. Just, you feel comfortable telling me no at any point, tell me to buzz off if this doesn't work. Great. And then here's like the questions that I have based on the problems. Here's how I pivot into setting the meeting. And then here's my script for how I set the meeting and make sure they show up. Like if you had all of that and just did it and improvised within the sections, I think you wouldn't have to worry about time as much.
Yeah. And I like I learned this from stalking Benjamin's like videos online. But one of the things that I learned about sales is the fact that we get ourselves pigeonholed, and we do this at the SDR level too, where we almost make it impossible to get to the next step because we leave too many open ends. And at the end of the call, you either want a yes or a no, right? As an SDR, you don't want to leave this, well, maybe I'll book a call. No, we're either going to move to a forward with the call, or I'm going to kick you off my list because I've disqualified you. So being really upfront with those contracts, this at the end of the call, are you comfortable telling me no if this is not a good fit? And vice versa, if I don't feel like we can help you in some way, I'll tell you no. Are you comfortable with that? And that is hugely beneficial, especially when you have such a complex solution that you may not get into all the nuts and bolts. There may be some overflow into that next conversation where they do need to see and hear more information before they can really satisfy their curiosity and desire to move forward. And you've got to figure out a way to get them to at least agree that it's worth coming back for more. So remove maybe from the equation and just say, hey, up front, we're going to determine yes or no moving forward with the call. And it just alleviates the burden of the unknown and the uncertainty, because at the end of the call, it's going to be a yes or a no. And if you're confident, it's going to be a yes 9 times out of 10, unless they don't have budget or whatever. And, at that point, it's like, well, ask about it. Would this be a budgeted project for you guys? Do you have budget in your, I don't know, where do you guys pull budget from? Usually marketing, probably more on the marketing or sales side. You can ask all those questions too. There's nothing wrong with that. Qualifies them for you. They don't have money.
Let me ask you a question, James, because I ask all my clients this, and most people get it wrong. Do you know what the purpose of a prospecting or a discovery call is? The purpose.
The purpose of a prospecting or discovery call.
Yeah.
You're not asking what my goal is. You're asking what the
No, not the goal. What's the purpose? Yeah.
To educate them.
No, you're not a teacher.
No.
You're a salesman. If you want to educate, go to school.
No.
No, the purpose. Well, we've said, how do people buy? People buy emotionally and justify intellectually. So
Right.
The purpose of a discovery call is to get them slightly emotional about what it is that you have.
Okay.
The outcome could be a sale, could be a demo, could be qualified in, those are outcomes. The
Right.
purpose is, how do I get a human being emotional about what it is that we fix? Because if I get them emotional about it, then they're going to say, okay, we should maybe talk more.
Mm.
And that's the purpose of any prospecting call. And most people don't know that. And that's why they flounder around. Yeah. If you know if I can't get this person remotely emotional about the problems we fix, this will go nowhere, no matter how intellectually brilliant our solution is. So a question is designed to get them to say, you've got something, James. You're right. Yeah, okay. All right. I'm willing to keep talking. So we've got to get them.
They'll be more honest too.
Yes.
You know, you'll get more honesty and transparency doing that. And that's one of the brutal truths about sales is that, you know, the psychology behind what we do, people inherently don't trust sales reps. Well, I don't really care, because my job is to sell at the end of the day, but I'm only going to sell to you if there's a reason for you to buy. And I have to motivate you to, you know, acknowledge that or discover it, because a lot of times they don't even know there's a solution that's to their problems, or that they have a problem, right? It's like, I don't know, being an alcoholic, right? Step one is admitting that you have a problem. Sales is the same thing. So, but I think you've got just you've got a confidence in you and the way that you portray yourself, that a couple tweaks on, you know, your and organizing how you would do the discovery process, like map it out so it's the same kind of every time, and get into a more of a routine. You know, you'll knock it out of the park. I don't know why you're an SDR. I think you talk to your boss up.
Yeah, I made a career change, like I said, about 19 months ago. And believe me, I'm thankful. I mean, if you could imagine how tough it is in the bar business these days, like it wasn't hard enough to do that job before without a mask and gloves on. On that note, if you are going out, guys, tip and tip well, tip like you're a Rockefeller. These people are having a hard time, but I'm thankful. You might not believe it, but I'm 41 years old. So it's the perfect time in my life to make that transition. You can't keep doing that stuff forever. And certainly with the circumstances around the world right now, I'm thankful to have to made the pivot.
Well, James, I'm gonna say something that's like a prickly compliment.
Sure.
A prickly compliment.
Great at that, by the way.
Yeah, but it's very obvious you're a very intelligent, clued up guy, and you know your stuff, which is a great asset. It's also an Achilles heel, because go back to when you were at school. Unless it was you, in this case, it might be James. Unless it was you, did anyone like the smartest kid in class?
No.
So if you're sitting across from a decision maker, if you make him feel a little stupid or a little out of his depth, he won't tell you that. He'll just sit there and nod. It's a very interesting, James. Very interesting.
It's not the kind of emotion that you want to rise out of them, is it?
So tone it down a bit. A true story. I walked into a new client in the city of London just on Tuesday, and I was confused for the delivery guy. I was then confused for the decorator. And this is a city of traders. And most people would be insulted. And I sat there and thought to myself, it's like, I'm doing my job well. No one even knows I'm the sales trainer to a group of traders. Yeah? So never be the smartest guy in the room, because you get to fly under the radar. And that's the power of being a good salesman, is you let everyone around you feel good about themselves. You just chip away and take their money.
Yeah. I'll add to that. Oh, sorry. I'll just add to that quick. Yeah, I think it's good because you just kind of have to simplify things. One, with the structure, it's going to make it a lot easier on you, but then also with the end goal. If I'm hearing correctly, you're just trying to set a demo. You're not trying to set a demo where they already have their checkbook out and they're ready to purchase. So I would just keep it super simple like that, and don't bite off more than you can chew from a discovery and education standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I love Benjamin's point about, human, like just being more human and how you're interacting with people. The less I try to sell, the better I do. I mean, I've literally been on calls with people that I was supposed to be like a 5-minute cold call, and 30 minutes later, they're telling me about the entire internal bureaucracy of the company and who's paid off who and who's sleeping with who, and these guys are going to be getting drunk going bowling, and I'll get some intel. I'm like, holy crap. And that is because I just come across as we're we're just hanging out, we're having a conversation. It's very like informal, but also you're leading them somewhere, right? Because that's the motivator behind it. But the more kind of you aren't attached to the outcome, the better you'll do. The more authentic you'll be. And then, but you still have your structure. What's that?
I said no attachment to the outcome, James. Yeah, you walk into every meeting with, I don't need the business. In fact, they should be grateful I'm here, because if I can fix their problems, this is the best day of their life. Yeah, think of yourself as like a cancer specialist. If this person, if we discover they got cancer, they should be bloody grateful I'm here. Yeah. So that's how I view sales.
That just took it to the next level for me, Benjamin. I'm going to be thinking I'm curing cancer in every call from now on.
We are.
I am.
I'm very good at being delusional, so I'm excited.
You don't even know the chord that you hit there, Benjamin. My sister is in remission from leukemia. I'm going to Florida in 8 days to give a stem cell transplant because her and I are a match. She's going to have a regrown immune system with my immune system.
Yeah.
That shit is happening.
Yes, I know. And you would give anything to fix her pain, wouldn't you?
Anything.
And prospects are the same. If you could get them to see how much pain they're in, they'll pay anything to fix it.
You're right on detached from the outcome, though. And you know who I learned the best about how to do that from is Buckley. James Buckley's my best friend. I've never seen someone that detaches from the outcome so well. It's unbelievable. Guy's unbelievable.
How you get there is more important than if you get there.
Say that again?
I said, how you get there is more important than if you get there.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's true.
I have a question for you, James.
Even if you from the first one, like the first time, like you can build on it. And one of the cool things about the job that I do is I don't have to cold call. I have clients and customers and partners that have established relationships, and I can call on them and, not ask for a thing and just kind of build on this process. But when you're an SDR and your point is, the objective is this, you're going to get told no a lot. So you can't really care about the outcome because you just pick up the phone and keep going and have your process.
Emotionally crushed. You're going to get told no a whole lot. It's part of the gig. Yeah, you have to detach.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you.
I'd rather have a no because then I can move on my day.
I know. I'm trying to get in. It's so hard. Whenever I work with Amy, I'm like, it's okay. She wants me to too. It's just I got clumsy feet. I got 2 left feet. James, you came here for a reason, right? You're almost 2 years into your role. Like, what are you looking to get out of this and take forward? And what is your next step, hopefully?
I was expecting, I was looking to get some really good feedback on my process. Oh, and I'll be honest with you guys, I don't actually set up a lot of discovery calls. I usually do pretty quick cold calls and set meetings right off of them. And I usually do what I should have done here is get in on one point that means something to them, that hits an emotional note, and I set up a meeting for my people. I do it to the tune of about 20 a month on average. I set up about 20 qualified meetings a month. From my understanding, I hear that's pretty good in the SaaS industry.
Very good.
And so I don't know why I went with such a longer presentation when it really wasn't a presentation. I guess I just sort of started getting, thinking about I needed to cover all this when I needed to just hone in on what's the thing that they're going to care about. But also wasn't necessarily talking to my typical persona as well. So kind of threw me off a little bit, I think.
Did a great job.
Yeah, but I think
that was one of those those English prickly compliments right there.
Not even English, you know that.
From New Zealand.
I just pretend.
What are you?
I'm originally from New Zealand, but I just came over to England because it's easier to get money out of English people than Kiwis.
Taiki Watiti's a national treasure, by the way. Let me just say that guy's freaking amazing. But in that whole area, those prickly compliments are great, and that was one of those. I was just saying, Benjamin, you're atypical, and I think you probably enjoy that. I think you take that as a compliment. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I love the fact that I get away with murder in front of important people.
Amen to that, man. Amen to that.
Yeah. James, though, I will say this. Okay, you were not flailing around. Okay, we've had some absolute dumpster fires on here, like full disclosure.
If you're watching, you know you are.
You represented very well. Like it was, I think all of us walked away knowing, like, okay, this is what your company does, and it's a very smart solution. So props to you on that. That you were able to articulate that, and it doesn't matter that discovery call didn't go the way that you would normally format it. I think we were able to see kind of some areas that you could tweak it, and I don't know, like I learned a lot. Like I was like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I like that. So
actually a really helpful platform for both sales and marketing. That's the thing, And I mean, that's how I usually open is I say that, I say what we do, and I say, after all, the data is the foundation of any successful sales or marketing campaign. Ask for agreement there in one word, or
I'd turn that into a question. Ask them, do they believe? Because if they
Sure.
say no, that point's going to land. That's not going to land, is it?
Not going to land at all, no.
Yes, you've got to ask them, do you believe that data? And if they say yes, fine. But if you say it and they say, well, not really, where do you go from there?
Fair. Amen
It's
to
all
that.
about the questions.
Yeah, I would never want someone to like know what I do until they ask. Like I'd prefer the first time they even know what my profession is when they're like, what do you do anyway? Like I try to keep that as vague as possible because I want them to be incredibly interested when they ask and not in a place of complacency when I tell them.
I tell people I'm unemployed. It shuts them up.
Where are you calling from? New Zealand.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I always call people and just pretend like they know me, or they should. Hey, it's Amy, Fortinet. And they're like, I'm sorry, who? I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think we had the pleasure of talking yet. And then they're just so thrown off, they just talk. Maybe that's just me. Can I have 40 minutes of your time?
So I've been hitting the bottle. It's about noon, and I was hoping we could have a chat.
Yeah, right.
Great, guys. I appreciate it. I really do.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think if you want, ping us with some of your buckets, like your pain buckets or something that you would normally use, and we can bounce some ideas around and figure out ways to kind of word that and articulate that really cleanly. By all means, follow up with us because we're happy to help.
Yeah.
Benjamin he'll probably charge you, but I think it's worth it.
Without doubt.
I'm not finding anything in my many leather-bound books back here, so I might just do that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and Benjamin, you too.
Thanks for asking.
Patrick was saying when he found out, I was like, Benjamin D's
Dude,
coming on, and Patrick was having a moment.
I've been holding it in the whole time. I feel like I did well. Except the background. That was a big giveaway, unfortunately.
Pretty cool.
Thank you. All right, guys. I'll stop the recording here.